The noise of the storm. No, I'm being called, it's time for me to go, explained the master, and he got up from the bed. Wait, one word more, begged Ivan. Did you find her? Did she remain faithful to you? Here she is, the master replied and pointed to the wall. The dark Margarita separated from the white wall and came up to the bed. She looked at the young man lying there and sorrow could be read in her eyes. Poor boy, Margarita whispered soundlessly and bent down to the bed. She's so beautiful, Ivan said, without envy, but sadly, and with a certain quiet tenderness. Look how well everything has turned out for you. But not so for me. Here he thought a little and added thoughtfully, or else maybe it is so. It is so, whispered Margarita, and she bent closer to him. I'm going to kiss you now, and everything will be as it should be with you, believe me in that, I've seen everything, I know everything. The young man put his arms around her neck and she kissed him. Farewell, disciple, the master said barely audibly and began melting into air. He disappeared, and Margarita disappeared with him. The balcony grill was closed. Ivanushka fell into anxiety. He sat up in bed, looked around uneasily, even moaned, began talking to himself, got up. The storm raged more and more, and evidently stirred up his soul. He was also upset by the troubling footsteps and muted voices that his ear, accustomed to the constant silence, heard outside the door. He called out, now nervous and trembling. Praskovia Fyodorovna. Praskovia Fyodorovna was already coming into the room, looking at Ivanushka questioningly and uneasily. What is it? She asked. The storm upsets you? Never mind, we'll help you now. I'll call the doctor now. No, Praskovia Fyodorovna, you needn't call the doctor, said Ivanushka, looking anxiously not at Praskovia Fyodorovna but into the wall. There's nothing especially the matter with me. I can sort things out now, don't worry. But you'd better tell me, Ivan begged soulfully, what just happened in room 118? "18?" Praskovia Fyodorovna repeated, and her eyes became furtive. Why, nothing happened there. But her voice was false, Ivanushka noticed it at once and said. Praskovia Fyodorovna. You're such a truthful person you think I'll get violent? No, Praskovya Fyodorovna, that won't happen. You'd better speak directly, for I can feel everything through the wall. Your neighbor has just passed away, whispered Praskovya Fyodorovna, unable to overcome her truthfulness and kindness, and, all clothed in a flash of lightning, she looked fearfully at Ivanushka. But nothing terrible happened to Ivanushka. He only raised his finger significantly and said, I knew it. I assure you, Praskovya Fyodorovna, that yet another person has just passed away in the city. I even know who. Here Ivanushka smiled mysteriously. It's a woman. Chapter 31. On Sparrow Hills. The storm was swept away without a trace, and a multicolored rainbow, its arch thrown across all of Moscow, stood in the sky, drinking water from the Moscow River. High up, on a hill between two copses, three dark silhouettes could be seen. Woland, Koroviev and Behemoth sat in the saddle on three black horses, looking at the city spread out beyond the river, with the fragmented sun glittering in thousands of windows facing west, and at the gingerbread towers of the Devichy convent. There was a noise in the air, and Azazello, who had the Master and Margarita flying in the black tail of his cloak, alighted with them beside the waiting group. We had to trouble you a little, Margarita Nikolaevna and Master, Woland began after some silence, but you won't grudge me that. I don't think you will regret it. So, then, he addressed the Master alone, bid farewell to the city. It's time for us to go. Woland pointed with his black gauntleted hand to where numberless suns melted the glass beyond the river, to where, above these suns, stood the mist, smoke and steam of the city scorched all day. The Master threw himself out of the saddle, left the mounted ones, and ran to the edge of the hillside. The black cloak dragged on the ground behind him. The Master began to look at the city. In the first moments a ringing sadness crept over his heart, but it very quickly gave way to a Swedish anxiety, a wondering gypsy excitement. Forever. That needs to be grasped, the Master whispered and licked his dry, cracked lips. He began to heed and take precise note of everything that went on in his soul. His excitement turned, as it seemed to him, into a feeling of deep and grievous offense. But it was unstable, vanished, and gave way for some reason to a haughty indifference, and that to a foretaste of enduring peace. The group of riders waited silently for the master,